Members of the jury, at the outset, I want to give expression to my appreciation of the close and careful attention which you have given to the evidence adduced during the course of the trial and the summation of counsel, and from your attitude during the trial so far as it has progressed. I feel entirely assured that you will give close attention to what the court is about to say is the law applicable to this controversy. You have just come into this court for service, and I want to say to you, as I have said to other jurors, that the functions of court and jury are very sharply defined under our judicial procedure. It is somewhat different in other courts and other communities, and somewhat different in our federal courts. But here we have an ideal method of the conduct of judicial inquiries like this. The future of the court is to instruct you as to the law and to pass upon any question of evidence arising during the trial. The function of the jury is to determine questions of fact after applying the instructions which the court shall lay down for its guidance in coming to a determination of the questions of fact. Neither may invade the function of the other. If I have an opinion on the question of fact here, I may not impose that upon you. It would be entirely unfair, even if I had an opinion here, which I have not, to impose upon you whatever thought the court might have on this dispute. So you realize that you are to approach the determination of this controversy with fair and impartial minds. During the course of the trial, the court had discussions with counsel as to some questions. Do not get the impression from that the court has any opinion on the question of fact here. It has none and may not have any. Now, let us see what we have here. We have, as the plaintiff, a young woman engaged in the profession of nursing, and from personal experience I may say that there is no more noble profession in our country. When a nurse comes into the sick room and administers by her wonderful care to the alleviation of the suffering or illness of her patient, she is performing a function that is almost a divine attribute, the comfort of the sick. But realize, of course, if you please, that her work in life is not to be considered by you in respect to giving her any sympathy, because that is not to be considered by you only on the question of loss. If you find that she is entitled to a verdict. She sues here to recover damages which she says were caused her by the negligence of these defendants in the operation of a truck engaged in the business of one of the defendants and operating upon the highways of this city. She says that she was injured solely because of that negligence and that she, by no act or omission amounting to negligence, contributed to the happening of the accident. She places her damages at $25,000. Of course, you men are not required to give her that unless you find that she has been damaged in that sum. Yet, you are to give her within that sum whatever would be sufficient compensation for what you think she has established if she was damaged because of these injuries. She says that being on one of the highways of our city on Broadway, south of 24th Street, on her way home from her day's work, she reached the southerly crossing of 24th Street desiring to cross, and she says that when she got there, eastbound traffic had been stopped and that there was a red light as provided by the police department of the city for the regulating of traffic on our highways, notifying those in charge of vehicular traffic that eastbound traffic was to be halted or was halted, while southbound and northbound traffic proceeded upon Broadway, that having gotten to that corner on a rainy night, she started to cross, and when she got about the middle of the crosswalk between the south and north sides of 24th Street, this truck of this defendant came upon her and struck her, knocking her down and causing the injuries which she makes the subject of her testimony. And for that, she says, I asked to be compensated because that was negligence on the part of the defendant. and I, by any act or omission, made no contribution to the occurrence which resulted in my injuries.